Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for joining me on another cracker episode this week. Do apologise, my voice is a little bit rusty. As you guys would have known, I actually attended Magic Round and just got back not long ago, to be quite honest with you. Only just come back to Sydney not long ago. Spent the whole weekend on Magic Round in Suncorp Stadium. Unbelievable experience. I've got to say, the fact that I got to be able to be part of Magic Round was something I'll never forget. I haven't been to Suncorp Stadium before, and I know, you got your own podcast, and you talk about rugby league, you've been everywhere, but unfortunately, it was my first time at Suncorp Stadium. But it was really good, great weekend, good to go with some mates, just to head down, and just to get to be able to be part of the spectacle of Magic Round. To really see all 8 games at the one stadium. I had a lot of question marks regarding the turf, and questioned a couple of things there, but that being said, it was fantastic. The experience, walking down Caxton Street to Suncorp Stadium, then walking back with the fans, having a laugh with a lot of yous that actually made my night, most of those nights there. So we had a really good time, which is why my voice is a little bit, on the receiving end of, and it's actually not doing too well at the moment. But we got to pull through and we got to deliver the content for you guys. So now I do appreciate you joining me on another episode once again this week. Now, obviously, with me being away, didn't get to prep as much for you guys in terms of all the bits and pieces of the news, so I'll be bringing as much as I can to you from the game. So let's get straight into it. The first things first, what I want to do, as per usual, just want to get straight into the NRL ladder. Now, obviously, just looking at some of the performances from these teams, there is a reason why they are where they are on the NRL ladder. And, having a look through all of the sides and look at some of the performances, you obviously, as you look through it, you start to see why they deserve to be there. And it's been really cracking to see. So I'll get straight into it on my end. So first team on that list is Penrith Panthers. 10-0. It's pretty surreal to see them killing it and really putting in some dominant performances and week in, week out, not having many issues with injury as well. That obviously plays a big part. So to see them sitting 10-0 for the first time in many years is a credit to them. So they've got top of the table with 20 points, followed by the Eels at second on 18 points. Who've been playing phenomenal football as well. In third and fourth, Storm and Rabbitohs. Fifth is Roosters on 14 points. There's a 4-point gap between fifth and sixth, which is the Dragons and the Seagulls on 10. And the Raiders come up to 8th position on 8 points. And then the bottom 8. So you got the Titans, Warriors, Knights, and the Cowboys all on 8 points. The Tigers are on 6 points with their win on Friday night. You got the Sharks and the Broncos on 4, and the Dogs on 2, still sitting last as at the round 10. Now, getting straight into the games, and the first game we're going to cover, obviously for that week, was the Tigers game. Now, the Tigers 36 defeating the Newcastle Knights 18. And what a performance from the Tigers. Finally got to turn a corner there and really produce some really good football. Now, as I said, Tigers have a habit of bringing out these types of performances. Unfortunately, it doesn't last. It's never consistent. But, look, they're shot out of the block straight away. And, it was just evident, what they're trying to do and how bad they wanted that win. The Knights, as I said, I come here week in, week out, and I talk about just how woeful they are. And they shouldn't be in the position that they're in. For the team that they have and the squad that they've got, it's not good for them to be sitting where they are. Now, you've got many people, many pundits there that are saying that they've lost the soul of the club. They've lost their identity, what it means to be a Newcastle Knight. And it's hard to sit here and disagree with that. With the talented players that they've got, they don't have Mitchell Pearce and they've been on a struggle streak. They lose the majority of the games without Mitchell Pearce there. Kind of the same impact that Tom Trbojevic has with him as well. But yeah, look, as I said, the forward pack always does their best to aim up, but unfortunately it's their backline that are just woeful and they're very inexperienced. But the Tigers, obviously, with the changes that they made with Maguire changing Empire to 6 and moving Dwayne to 3, really proved pivotal, and it was really good to see that from them and to see a bit of a change-up and sparked up something in the Tigers. But yeah, look, it was just woeful defence from the Knights. They sucked in about the first 15, 20 minutes. They got up to about a 22-0 lead, after 20-odd minutes. The Tigers that we've been getting used to, just like random parts of the season in random games. But, yeah, look, and for Michael Maguire, he'd just be pleased with the win. But for Adam O'Brien, he has to, look at the changes he needs to make because, from what we've seen in the last month, has been nothing short of woeful. It's been pretty embarrassing, for him to be the coach of the Knights, trying to build a solid team there, and with the caliber of players they got, still not be able to, put in good performances, and to lose to the Tigers, really would have hit hard. And look, they're looking at doing some sort of a review, which I'll get to a bit later. But look, it was good to see the Tigers aim up and finally get a win over at Magic Round and just get something there, just to hopefully kick off their season from here. The second game on Friday night, Seagulls 50 defeated the Broncos 6. Now, this game, with the NRL cracking down on high tackles and concussions, every game was going to be affected. And this game was definitely one of those that got affected. In the first game I had 4 sin bins. The second game I had 4 sin bins. I thought some of the shots that caused sin bins were a little bit unfair, to be quite honest. But look, the Broncos were pretty hard done by. I thought the refereeing on Friday night wasn't the greatest. There were a lot of calls that didn't go the Broncos' way, that went the Seagulls' way, which stretched them out to about an 18-0 lead. But look, the Seagulls just took it in their stride. They took over the fact that Broncos were down to 11, having a player sent off and then a player sin bin, and they really took it in their stride and they just smacked the Broncos. The Broncos, again, inconsistency. They'll put in a good performance one week. If they win it by a nail biter, great. If they lose it by a nail biter, they put that in one week and then the next week they get smashed. And the Seagulls just ran a riot. I mean, Tom Trbojevic, again, so pivotal in attack for the Seagulls, just so damaging, and you just see exactly what he can do, for that side. Now, as I said, the Broncos, obviously in that first 20-odd, 30-odd minutes, they were really bad. They were good for about 6 minutes, and then the rest, they were just rubbish. And they're really missing that experience. Milford, again, didn't deliver, which was hard to watch. Tyson Gamble he was the one that got binned, one of the players that got binned as well. Really didn't step up. Sarko was quiet. Farnworth did what he could, made that break towards the back end of half time. But at the end of the day, they needed to aim up, especially being at home, being back at Suncorp. But over the years, Manly have always had this thing over the Broncos where they can always beat them, whether it be at home, whether it be away. Playing at Suncorp Stadium, they've always seemed to got them. But the Seagulls put on a clinic, having to move Shooter on 5'8" a little bit during the game, before him breaking his hand. So they played really well. It's crazy just the impact of one player, and I keep talking about it. But Tom Trbojevic, you just see is so pivotal to that side. And the longer he stays in that side, the higher we see Seagulls climbing up the ladder. On the Saturday games, the Raiders 20 defeating the Bulldogs 18. And look, I thought Raiders, they needed a win. And they got that win. They can finally, breathe a sigh of relief. And with the Bulldogs, you just see that once you think we've hit the lowest point, we go lower. They beat us with 11 men. Now, it's so hard to look at. Honestly, I was at that game and I was watching it, and I was just seeing that send-off that Papali'i copped for that hit on Tui Katoa that caused the send-off, and then Whiting getting sin-binned. We did nothing in that time. And we didn't do enough to put them on the back foot and to gain more of a lead to hold on. And it's very poor. Again, we haven't scored more than 18 points this season, and 18 is only the amount we scored again last week. But the Raiders came out after that send-off. They actually fired up, and it really rolled them up to start playing better and to start putting a lot of pressure on. And you start to see a bit of the Raiders of old, really applying that pressure, dominating in defense and in attack. But look, the Raiders finally get that win. They hold on. To do it against, to do it with 11 men is very inspirational as well. Even if it was against a low quality side like the Bulldogs. But losing to a team with 11 men just doesn't get more embarrassing than that. I don't know how much lower it can get for the Bulldogs, but I feel like we're at our lowest. But they don't seem to surprise us with just how low they can go as a club. The Rabbitohs defeated the Sharks 32 points to 22. Now, this was quite an entertaining game. The first half, the Rabbitohs really came out of the blocks, and really applied a lot of pressure on the Sharks. Toby Rudolph knocking on in the first minute didn't really help their case. And forget knocking it on, but then obviously using the captain's challenge so early in the game really costed them. And now that really just set the tone for the Rabbitohs to take advantage straight away and to score. They put on about 18 or 20 odd points in that first half. It really put Sharks on the back foot. The Sharks started to climb back through the second half, but it was just unfortunate that it got cut down by the Rabbitohs, who ended up putting in 2 more tries to finishing off that game. The Sharks, as I said, I generally thought this would be the week that would get that win, just to finally get a win under Josh Hannay. But they seem to be sinking deeper and deeper, the Sharks, and the more that the board don't want to admit it, and their spokespeople don't want to admit it, they're just sinking, bit by bit. Fitzgibbon's going to come on with a massive salary cap that he can look to buy all these players, but unfortunately, in the here and now, getting rid of John Morris again was a wrong decision, and you're starting to see the benefit. You're starting to see how they're just reaping that, and they haven't won a game since. It's hard to look at, but the Rabbitohs again got off to a quicker start, but they're still conceding a lot of points. The last few matches they've conceded a lot. They conceded 50 last week, so it's good to see them rebound this week and get that win. But look, still leaking 22 points is still not ideal. And so they really need to go back and work on their defensive capability, because, as I said, at the moment, it really isn't present. And Wayne Bennett really needs to smack him into gear, the fact that they got Penrith this week as well. The Roosters 30 defeating the Cowboys 16. Very good game, this one, for me. I thought the Roosters played really well. And then once they had to play a bend, and then the Cowboys just jumped on it straight away. Scored the last 2 tries in the first half, and then scored straight off the bat of the second half. That hit Valentine Holmes, the way he stepped Sam Walker, and the way as he stepped him, he just pummeled him. It was beautiful to watch. Went straight through the middle and then pulled a few drink of water to score a try. And I just thought, this could be where the Cowboys just won with the game. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the case. And the Roosters held on, and they were just slick in attack. Sam Walker, again, very instrumental in the side's attack. And yeah, look, the way you're looking at, how the Roosters are playing as many of their troops down, still pulling out ways to win. And I just thought the Cowboys lacked that effort in the second half to just be able to put more points on and apply more pressure. A lot of errors crept into that game as well, which really didn't help them as well. But you got to see, just some freakish play. But I thought James Tedesco's best game in a while, to be honest. He had been a bit quieter in the last few games. But I thought this game, he really shone. That try assist where he gave for Angus Crichton, who played also 2 games as well. He scored 2 tries. But I thought that assist, as he was falling to the ground and saw Crichton and popped it up to him, I thought that was really cool. Being at the game and at the crowd just rolled up for it. So that was really cool to see. But, Cowboys not being able to just, go through. But look, as I said, in every game, the sin bins and everything was a big factor in it, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. But the Eagles 34 defeated the Warriors 18. And yeah, look, the game was won in the first 20, 25 minutes. Warriors, every time they got the ball, would knock it on. They couldn't complete a set to save their life. And, you look at a side like Parramatta, who were always going to take advantage of that. And they were going to take advantage of a side who every time they got possession would lose it. And, RCG, he went and scored 2 tries. Good to see Jacob Arthur on debut score a try as well. Ryan Madison get in the books as well. But yeah, Eagles won that game the first 20, 25 minutes after leading 22-0. And then you bring this wonder kid in, Reece Walsh, off the bench for the Warriors, and then straight away, something sparks up their attack. He comes on, and he plays wonderful football. Each and every time he gets that ball, he's such a threat. And he started to lead a bit of a charge back, started to lead a bit of a charge on the comeback for the Warriors. And, it was his presence on the field and him coming on. He ran about 170-odd metres. And it was just really good to watch someone like him who's only played 4 or 5 games just make such immediate impact and just get the Warriors straight back from the back foot and just make a short power on the back foot and just start attacking them until they can crack that line. Got to about 24-18, 26-18, or 28-18 actually, sorry, before the Warriors dropped it, and then Jacob Arthur got to score on debut for the Eels. But yeah, the Warriors just lacked that punch and a lot of errors, especially in that first 20 minutes. At one point the possession was 91-9 in percentage, 91% to Para to 9 the Warriors. So a really tough outing for the Warriors, and the Eels made them pay really well. And as I said, the beautiful moment with Brad Arthur seeing his son debut, which is a really cool effort, and a good effort from him. Not being able to train with the team much due to COVID and being part of the New South Wales Cup and then not being added to the main squad and only having a captain's run with the squad, I've got to say it was pretty impressive. And the fact that he also got a try as well was just like, cherry on top. And it was really good to, see him. He was only 19 years old and learning off, Mitch Moses and Dylan Brown and Joey Johns, which is really good, for his development. And he'll only get better. So it was really good to see that. Now, the Storm 44 defeating the Dragons 18 in the second game on that Sunday clash. Now, losing Pappenhausen in the first after the first 20 minutes was really tough. That hit on him was poor. Phil Moana copped the 5-week suspension for it. But you talk about, the next man up. And when you look at sides like Melbourne Storm, Sydney Roosters, even to an extent, Penrith Panthers, these are the three sides that dominate the next man up mentality. And the Storm showed it again. Now, the Storm came into this game, with Pappenhausen making his return, but Brendan Smith was suspended, and Harry Grant and Cameron Munster both got injured prior to the game. To have them come out to be replaced with, people like Chris Lewis, Tyron Smoothie, Nico Hines, we're talking about 3 or 4 players part of the spine. And, it's when you come in with a brand new spine, it's a little bit tougher to kind of have that cohesion. And you'd think they'd lack it, with the limited amount of time they would have trained and spent together. But for Storm to still go out and put 44 points on the Dragons, regardless of them having someone sent off, it's crazy just how the one-up mentality works. When the next man in comes in and does a job, it's phenomenal. And I'll talk about the Melbourne Storm all the time, how they've got a phenomenal system there. And it's really good to see them always, that every talent that comes through, just the next man up. But for the Dragons, I thought they really, really suffered with the fact that send-off really cost them. But they showed a bit of a fight back at the end of the first half. They scored 2 tries and they started to show a bit of resilience. But it was all the way. Jerome Hughes really stepped up. I thought Nico Hines had a phenomenal game. Who was meant to be playing 5'8", got moved to fullback the rest of the game. Didn't score a try either. He just set up line breaks, made line breaks himself, set up some tries. Was really dominant, for the Storm. And that's what got him over the line. Jesse Bromwich as well and Christian Watch leading from the front. I hope that as well. But they really put it onto the Dragons. You got to give, Dragons, some credit here to really fight on and to put on 18 points, being down 12 men. And as I said, just the Storm just ran over them and they couldn't do anything for the Saints. And unfortunately, that's where just the difference is between the two sides in terms of their depth and their talent. And in the last game, Panthers 48 defeating the Titans 12. And, there isn't much else I can say about the Panthers just flying so high at the moment. Nathan Cleary had a phenomenal game, scoring a hat-trick himself, setting up tries left, right and centre. It was just brilliant. He's playing exceptional football right now. The Titans, really, really bad. That send-off to Herman SCSA, not needed. That hit was not needed at all, and it really costed them to go down 30-0 half time. And then Titans tried to show a bit of what they could do. Look, to their credit, they did put on about 12 points, and unfortunately, it just didn't help their case. It was too little, too late to be down 30-0 at half time to the best team in the comp. There's no coming back. Even if it's someone like average, like for the Tigers, they can lead someone 30-0. And to come back and beat them is very tough. So good luck to doing it against the Panthers, especially down 12 men. But you just see how everyone just does their job and does it very well. I thought the left-hand side was a little quiet. Everything was down to the right-hand side. Everything came down to Cleary's end, to Dylan Edwards, and to Charlie Staines and Steve Crichton, as opposed to it going down the other side with Viliami Kikau, Brian Tor. So the Panthers was dominated. They showed why they are the benchmark. And, as I said, hopefully these wins lead them to winning the competition. But the Titans they were woeful, kind of taking a step back. And they really need to evaluate themselves against the Bulldogs this week and to just make a host of changes there. Now, I need to talk about this whole concussion stance that Peter Van Zyl is taking. I don't have a problem. It took me a few days. When they did announce that they're going to crack down on high tackles, I genuinely thought, as I watched the game, that part of me thought that this was going to ruin the game. The rules had always been there. It took me a couple of days to just accept the game for what it was, to just keep watching it. I thought 3 or 4 of the high shots that were given probably shouldn't have been sent off or even sin bin, but they're cracking down really hard. And look, I'm all for what Vlandis is trying to do. I don't mind that he wants to come in and change this game up and look out for players' welfare. You know, he's come out and he said that we want to send our players home with 100% health. Unfortunately, in a game like rugby league, you can't guarantee that. You know, they're gonna break a leg. They're gonna break their arm. They're gonna pop out their shoulder. They're gonna do their back. They're gonna injure their neck. You know, they're gonna get concussed. You know, you want to eliminate concussion from the game. You'll never 100% eliminate it because, of course, that's if you think you can, that's ridiculous. But my concern with all this is the NRL have a habit of bringing in new rules during the season. And I don't know why. I don't know why that they find something clicks to them after 10 rounds and says, okay, we need to change the rules. We need to bring this in. Or we need to take this out. And this is going to be a very tough call. And Peter Vlandis, as I said, you know, he's mentioned he wants to send these players home 100% to their families. But the problem I have with that is I just think he cares more for the pocket of the NRL. And it's a very tough call. And I don't want to believe that it's true. But he's just trying to save himself from lawsuits. He's trying to save the code from going into any more lawsuits in regards to concussion. It's very more on the controversial side of things, but this is why I think that. He's been in charge of the game for the last couple of years. Yes, concussions have been a lot more noticeable in the last 2 or 3 years than any other period. However, I just don't see why it took him 10 rounds to click to himself and say, we need to do something about concussions. You know, if you're going to come in, this is something that you kind of want to handle straight away, or you want to get done at the beginning of the season. Because to get coaches to train their players, to teach them how to tackle again, and to go a little bit different to how they're going now, it's very tough. You know, I like the fact that he was trying to do it and keep the players safe, and that's his interpretation of it. But I think he cares more about the pocket of the NRL than the players' welfare, because he's just trying to cover his backside at the end of the day. Because, as I said, this should have been brought out years ago, and there should have been a hard line stance on this years ago. Unfortunately, no one's had the courage to do that. And I'm all for what he's trying to do. I just think that there's a couple of lawsuits potentially coming his way. And my opinion of that is, you know, there's a good chance he will suffer for that. And so he doesn't want the game to suffer for it and to lose millions due to concussion and players going into dementia and having dementia in their 40s and 50s. And I like what he's trying to do. I just think that you're going to bring something in like this, you've got to bring it in from the beginning of the season. You can't bring it in 10 rounds in or 15 rounds in. This is something you want to have made clear. You've got to bring it in from the beginning of the year so that the players know that in their training, they know how to tackle and how to appropriately do it. You know, you hear different people say they should reward the low tackle. Okay, but majority of the concussions come from the low tackle because the players, you know, when they run, they have more use of their hips. And that's where you see a lot of the concussions. So if a player goes to change their angle and they've changed their ankle and it's more rotation with their body, and someone try to tackle low, their hip has collected them in the head and they're concussed. So, I like, as I said, the crackdown that they're trying to do just puts every single player on notice, regardless of their rap sheet. But I just think that the NRL care more about their pockets than they do the care about the welfare of the players. So that's my take on it. Again, I want to see how it unfolds. I don't want Vlandis to come in and make this big, tough stance to then not do anything about it and then drop off after 4 weeks. It doesn't seem like he will. But then again, crazy things have happened in the NRL. So, as I said, we just need to see how that all goes down and see how the NRL will move forward with this and to see whether they'll keep that hardline stance on for years to come. Because it's going to take years. It's not a 2-week fix. It's not a 10-minute fix. It's not a 1-month fix or 6-month fix. It's going to take 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years to get this 100% nailed and down packed. So we're going to get used to a different game. Now, that's my take on all of that. Let's just preview the games coming up. You've got the Cowboys coming up against the Newcastle Knights. Colin has failed the HIA. We'll sit out the game this week. So Tom Gilbert will come into the starting side to replace him. And Hylam Lukey will make his debut off the bench, 20-year-old Hylam Lukey. Now, for the Knights, Kurt Mann has been named and moved to fullback, which brings in Blake Green, who's named in jersey 21, into the halves. Bradman Best is named, but looking to be out, so just waiting to hear on that. Braden Musgrove will come into the side to take the spot of Humble Hunt, who's injured his hamstring once again. And Phoenix Crossland will go into 5'8", with Tex Hoy, I reckon, being the man that'll miss out. Now, and they'll also be missing Calvin Ponga. I think with this game, with no Ponga and still no Pearce, and with all the rotations, I think Cowboys will win this one at home, and they'll win it by 14 points. Now, they've got the Warriors coming up against the West Tigers. Now, West Roche will come into the starting side at fullback and move Tuivasa-Sheck out to the wing, because Kemba Marlowe is injured and won't be making his presence known in that game. So Elisa Katoa will come onto the bench. But they do lose Josh Cohen, who's out for a month, which will mean that Jack Amucci will come to the starting side. When Tory Harris will still be there to lock the scrum. And for the Tigers, they will name their side 1 to 17. They'll keep Dewey in the centres and they'll keep Mbai at 5'8", hopefully to get a bit more consistency in that side. It's going to be a tough game. I'm going to go the Tigers. Just a couple of injuries that Warriors have. I'm going to go the Tigers by 12 and hopefully get the ball rolling. And this will be the time they can really start putting in some steady performances. You've got the Sharks coming up against the Dragons. Sharks named the same side of 1 to 17 that they named against for last week's team. Now for the Dragons, they have a host of changes. So Josh Maguire is out for 5 weeks and Tuel from Moana also out for 5 weeks due to suspension. As well as Michaela Revalawa and Tarek Sims, who are out for 2 weeks and 1 week respectively. And Matt Duffy is also injured his shoulder as well. So Cody Mims will go into fullback from the wing. Jordan Pereira will come back from suspension on the wing. And Max Fiagai being the other winger. Billy Burns will come into the side in the centres, while the back rows will be Jackson Ford and Pawasa Famawasili. Prof. Jaden Hunt will be making his NRL debut off the bench, alongside Junior Amoni. Another man on the bench will be Kate Ellis and Daniel Alvaro. I think this will be the week that Sharks finally get that win. With Dragons pretty depleted, I do see that the Sharks getting that win and getting their first win under Josh Hannay. And they should do that by about 16 points. Got the Titans coming up against the Bulldogs. Herman Siese is out for 3 weeks due to a high shot, as well as Tyron PG out for 2 weeks due to suspension. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui will go to lock, and Mo Fotuaika will go into the starting side at prop. With those changes, Sam Stone and Aaron Clark will come back onto the bench. Now for the Bulldogs, Tupu Katoa won't be playing this week after being collected head high by Josh Papali'i. So Nick Meaney will go out to the wing, and Aaron Shorp is a kid coming through, 19-year-old kid who's making his debut for the club. Dylan Up has been named, pushing Okehifa Ogden to the reserves, and Matt Dewey will start, pushing Adam Elliott over to the bench. Even though Titans are still missing a few counterparts and Bulldogs missing a few as well, I am going to stick with the Bulldogs. But there's still threat around the Titans park, so you guys can take your pick on that tip, but I'll stick with the Bulldogs by 4 on that one. The Roosters are coming up against the Broncos this weekend. Now, from what I can see, the Roosters are 1 to 17. From what I'm hearing that Joseph Swiley will finally make his debut this week, so that's something to keep an eye out for. For the Broncos, a host of changes. Albert Kelly will be the new 5'8", which Milford being dropped to Queensland Cup. And Keenan Palacia will start for the Brisbane Broncos. The Jordan Ricky is suspended. David Mead will come into the wing to take the spot of Corey Oates. Herbie Farnworth is out, so Dale Copley will take his spot in the side. And Kobe Hetherington, the son of Jason Hetherington, will be making his NRL debut off the bench and taking the spot of Danny Levi. With the way the teams are looking, I'm going to go the Roosters comfortable win by 20 plus. And I'm expecting Joseph Swire to have a cracker debut for the club there. Now, we've got the Raiders coming up against the Storm. The Raiders are pretty depleted. Jack White and Josh Papali'i and Josh Hodgson all suspended. So Sam Williams will come into 5'8". Dynamis Lu will move from lock to prop. And New South Wales Cup halfback Brad Schneider will be making his debut off the bench and taking the spot of Josh Hodgson. Hudson Young will move from the bench to the starting side and lock. And Ryan Sutton will come back into the side. His elbows recovered a bit quicker than expected. Now, for the Storm, Pappenhausen will be out this week due to that sickening head knock. So Nico Hines will go back to fullback. Chris Lewis will be the one to partner Jerome Hughes in the halves. Brendan Smith will come straight back into hooker, who take the spot of Tyson Smoothie, who's injured his PCL. And Aaron Penne will be moved from the reserves from the interchange to the reserves. So I reckon Storm will win this one by 20 points, even though it's at Canberra's home. I think Canberra are missing a lot of strike power, and they'll lose this game by 20 to Melbourne. The game of the round, the Rabbitohs come up against the Penrith Panthers. Latrell Mitchell makes his return back from suspension straight into the fullback jersey, pushing Cody Walker to 5'8" and Benji Marshall back to his bench utility role. Josh Mansell will come into the side back from recovering from his hamstring injury, which Tiny Milne will drop out of the 21 squad. And Jacob Host will make his return on the bench and take the spot of Hame Sele. And Jeff Cartwright being moved on with Benji Marshall taking his spot as well. Now for the Panthers, Kurt Cabral will return this week after sitting out last week due to the head knock. Liam Martin will go back to the bench, and the debutant Jermaine Hopgood will go to the reserves. And I'm gonna, it's a tough one, with both these sides playing pretty much with full squads. I want to go on a shock here and go Rabbitohs by 2. It's a big call, but I think it's time that Penrith might lose this week, and I think there's no better side on the comp to lose to than the Rabbitohs. So I want to go Rabbitohs by 2 as my shock tip of the week. And then the last game, the Eagles coming up against the Sea Eagles. Now, Jory Lussick will come in to make his club debut off the bench and take the spot of Ray Stone. Now, for the Sea Eagles, Cade Cuss will come to the side to replace Kieran Foran because Kieran Foran's broken his hand, will be out for 2 to 4 weeks. And Josh Sherrill will stay back in the back row. And Tapau's been named to start up prop with Kepi coming off the bench, but there's going to be that game day switch that's been happening in the last few weeks as well. It's going to be a tough game, this one. Another cracker game for Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go on a bit of a shock here. I'm going to go Manly by 8 to beat the Parramatta Eels this week. Guys, thank you for joining me on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. As you guys know, we'll be dropping merch very, very soon, so you can get your own piece of merch. As I said, with the League Chat with the Stat emblem at the front, with the letters at the back. You get that in black or white. They'll be dropping hopefully this week, if not next week. But stay tuned in to all the rugby league news coming through. As I said, appreciate your time. Anything else that you guys want to request that we would like to do on the podcast, just let us know and we'll go from there. You have a good one, guys. Enjoy the footy this week. Take it easy.